In the meantime, we will move on to the next session, which is about creating and modifying files. So let's go, excuse me, let's go into creating and modifying files. So in the same way that the last section, the previous section, mainly dealt with two things, find and grep. In this session, we will mainly deal with two new commands, one called cat and one called echo. I think maybe Bouquet showed you, at least you showed echo before. I think maybe you also showed cat, but we will dive deeper into how to use these now. So for this session, I will just reuse. Let's clear up here and get the terminal back. I will use the clear command that Bouquet showed a few times earlier. So just clear with no arguments and hit enter. It just cleans up the terminal. And also let's do cd with no arguments. That puts us into our home directory. So the first way that we will learn how to create files. Actually, this is the second way because we saw earlier that we can create an empty file with the touch command. But this is the first way we are learning that we can create a file with some contents in it. And we will use the echo command for this. So recall from before when Bouquet showed you, echo prints whatever you give it to the terminal. So if I put in some quotation marks and say, hi, mom, this will print exactly what I'm giving to echo on my terminal. So let's hit enter now and see, it just gives you back what you give in. And we can use this with something called redirection to make a new file. So echo prints whatever you give it, but we can take what echo is trying to print and then just direct it into a file. So this is what redirection is doing. And in basic bash, redirection is done with the greater than sign. So let's try this out. So we do echo, and now we want to put some contents into a file. So let's put the words created with echo into the file. And now we use the greater than sign and we redirect it into a new file. So let's call this new file with echo.txt. And let's hit enter now and see. So normally, as I said, echo would print whatever you give it to the terminal. But now we are taking the output that echo would normally print and we are putting it into a file. So hopefully we'll not show anything on the terminal. So let's hit enter now and see. And as I suspected, nothing came out on the terminal, but let's now inspect and see. Use ls list. So we list the files in this directory. They're in my home folder. And we see, actually, let's do that again. So I think the file was hidden behind my little square up here. So let's do ls. We see we have here a new file called new file with echo. We saw earlier about how some ways that we can use to read a file. So let's try, for example, less. So less is a program used to open and look at the contents of files. So let's do that with the new file with echo file. Let's see what happens. So when I hit enter now, this will put my terminal into a new state where I can scroll and navigate in this file. So let's hit enter. And we see there is not much in here, just the one line. But if you had a larger file, you can scroll up and down in here. How to get out of less, you have to hit the Q button on your keyboard. So I just hit Q. Actually, okay, I was worried there for a bit because there was some lag, but it did put me out. So that's a good thing to remember. Hitting Q on your keyboard removes you from things like, I think it's the same for the man pages and the less and some other things as well. If you are using Vim, for example, which is a popular text editor. So this was, okay, we managed to create a file. Let's now say that we want to add to a file. And this we can also do with redirection, but we use 2 less than signs instead of 1. So let's say we want to now add a new line to this file that we just created. We can again use echo, and we just add the line, new line. And now instead of 1 greater than sign, we use 2. And this will now append whatever we are putting in here to the end of the file that we are giving here. So let's do this for the same file that we just created. So echo, we are putting a new line, 2 redirects. So this will append whatever we are putting in there to the end of the file. If you just put 1, it will overwrite the contents. So this is another instance of be careful about the Linux commands, because if you overwrite what is in this file and what was in this file is important to you, then there is no way to get it back. But now let's hit enter and see. So again, this gives us no input because echo is, we are redirecting the output of echo to into the file. So let's again now use less to look at new file with echo. And we see we have the line from when we originally created the file, and we have the new line that we just added. Again, hit Q to exit less, and let's move on. So another way to create files on in the terminal is to use cat. So cat is a program that when I was taught, I use cat mostly for reading files, but cat, I believe, is short for concatenate, which means combining things, which is, I guess, for historical reasons. You can also use cat to combine things. And maybe we will see this later today, I'm not sure. But cat is, in my mind, mostly used to read files. So if we, for example, say cat a space, and then we put in new file with echo, this will now just print the contents of this file to my terminal. So I hit enter now, and we see these are the 2 lines in this file. Notice that this is different from when we use less. So less new file with echo puts my terminal into this alternate state, if I hit enter now, where you can scroll around in this file. And when you exit by pressing Q on your keyboard, there are no artifacts or remnants from this reading of the file. So cat, if you're using cat to read a big file, it will clutter up your terminal and put a lot of stuff there. If you just want to see what's inside but not print it all to your terminal, you can use something like this. But now let's try to use cat to write a file, and we can use the same redirection trick. So we do cat, and then we redirect cat into a new file, which we call new file with cat.txt. And this will now also, when I hit enter now, put my terminal into kind of a weird state, because now we are kind of in the middle of the cat command, but the cat command is not yet finished. So notice I am now in a state where I didn't get a new prompt. So normally if you put in a command in your terminal, when you hit enter, you would get a new prompt because you are at the next step, so you can put in the next command. But now we are still in the same command. So now we can write things into this file. So let's do that. So in the example, we have A, B, C, D. This is a new line. This is the last line. So this is some content. that I just wrote in at random for this file. And the way to stop the cat command and just put this all into the file is to do Control D. So let's do that. And we see we now recovered our prompt. We are now ready to type in more commands. And hopefully, let's do ls and see if we got a new file. So I hit enter now, list all the files in this directory. Looks like we have a new file here that we didn't have before called new file with cat. And now I will just do like some cat inception where I use cat now to read the contents of this new file that we just created with cat. So cat, and I put in new file with cat, and I hit enter now, and it should print the contents of this file to my terminal. So let's do that. And it looks like these are all the contents of this file that we just created. The same thing can be used for appending to a file. So if I do this with an existing file with the double redirects, so double greater than signs, this would append to the end of a file, of an existing file, instead of creating a new one or overwriting. So sometimes if you're just doing some simple things on the NRISC clusters, you just want to add a single line or remove a single line from a file. You can use these tricks. If you need to use slightly more complicated things, there are different terminal text editors. So these are editors that are mimicking a graphical user interface, but they just live inside the terminal. So there are some examples. Maybe the most famous one is V or Vim. There's Emacs, use Nano. Some people use Nano on the NRISC clusters. I think probably all of these are installed by default. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but Vim and Emacs and Nano are all installed by default on all the clusters. So it's really up to you which one you want to use. So there is an example here with Nano, where if you just type in Nano and, for example, the name of a file. So let's say new file with nano.txt. This will open a new file called new file with nano, and it will open it in the nano text editor. So let's hit enter now, and you will see the state of my terminal will now change dramatically, where we are now inside this text editor. And the nice thing with Nano is you get some hints on what you can do in here. You have some hotkeys down in the bottom here, which can help you. So if I now want to write, this is a new file. I created this with the Nano text editor. This is the last line. Now, I think write out should be essentially saved. So let's try that. So I hit Control or Command, Control O. And that put me into this dialog where it's asking me, what name do you want to use for the saving? And I think I can just hit enter now. And it says down here, wrote 4 files, 4 lines, excuse me. So this is basically saying we just saved the file. Let's try to exit Nano. It looks like I can do Control X. So the hotkey down here to exit. Let's see if I can manage. So we do Control X, and it put me back in my normal terminal state. Now There are some more examples on how to use Nano in here. I will not go into more details, but I will very, very briefly just show you that you can also use VS Code for this. It requires a proper login that I know some people have had issues with because the Saga files is having some difficulties, so we apologize for this. I know it works for some people. I have it set up here to working. I showed you briefly in the last session. So there is a recipe for how to get this set up in this in the material for this session. So if you want to, you can look at it later and try to set it up. Once you do, it looks like a fairly normal text editor and text, file discoverer. So you have a graphical interface, all your files. You can click on them, they open into, and then you can write things in the files and you can save them like normal. And this works just as a normal text editor. So for long-term use, I would suggest you look into setting up something like this. But for now, I will not go into more details about this, and I think it's time to move on to the next session.